Hey, Professor Grubbs, and any other unfortunate YouTube surfers who have stumbled across my educational TED Talk. I'm going to start off by saying that whenever I was in school, a lot of the focus of the kind of average or below average teachers was definitely standardized testing and discipline because those kind of seemed to go hand in hand. It was like the teachers would um, lecture for hours on end and expect the kids to just sit in a desk and not wiggle around, not say a word to anyone. And so they would end up having to discipline the kids when they couldn't do that. Um, so I would say that any given day, from the time I was in kindergarten up until the time I graduated, I could walk down the hallway, see a handful of kids out waiting to get in trouble over not being able to sit still. And all the while they were in the hallway, they were missing out on the lesson that was being taught. And so then, whenever the end of the year exam came, they might have missed what added up to an hour, hour and a half. And I don't know, the environment of my school wasn't really conducive to all kinds of children. Now, before I completely put down my school, I have to say that I had an awesome school experience. My teachers were super involved. We were always going on field trips. I had an awesome system at home to study and do homework and everything like that. But I was also in the advanced classes, which you had to jump through 1,000 hoops to get into. And it was only probably about 25% of the school's population was in these advanced or gifted classes. Now, back to the testing, I would say that I absolutely agree that the scores of tests can be so important to showing how a child is improving or where they need a little bit of help. But I don't think that a test should determine what class you're in, if you're gifted or if you're smart enough. I think that there's a lot that should go into that kind of thing. And I also don't think that the only way you should have a good school experience is if you're placed in these advanced classes that are learning in more than just the lecturing way. I think that the advanced section of schools ends up getting a lot of the funds. It's like there's this big pool, and only the smart kids get the large amount of money to go on these field trips and to work hands on with stuff and to learn in more ways than just sitting in a desk. And I don't really think that's fair. I think that we should learn to spread the wealth among all students so that everyone has a great learning environment. And I do think that teachers do a great job with what they're asked to do by the state and national governments. I'm not saying that it's these teachers' faults at all. I think that a lot of the times teachers become so overwhelmed with the standards that they're asked to teach for the end of the year test, which reflect them also. So I think that whenever teachers are being asked to do all these different things, focus on the standards, be there when a child needs them, all of these things, it's like they get overwhelmed. And so how are you supposed to run a classroom with a homey environment whenever you're trying to get through 10,000 standards for the kids to learn for the end of the year test, all the while trying to keep them under control because you can't teach them in any other way besides just sitting in a desk because you have no funds to teach them any other way. I think that a lot of the times, unintentionally, public schools are taking away that fun learning experience that students should have. It's like they're getting the bare minimum of what school should be. School should be full of laughter and fun and definitely learning, but learning in more than just memorization. I think that a lot of the times that's what teachers expect us to do, to memorize exactly what we need to know and nothing else, not learn from what we're being taught. I think that a lot of the times we're given these multiple choice tests, and that multiple choice tests a lot of the times are just memorization unless you're applying what you know. And I think that I know even personally in the advanced classes that I was in, we had a lot of multiple choice, and it was straight from the notes, which I was fine with because I luckily had a photographic memory, but that's not very common. So I think that a lot of the times kids go through school feeling a little bit, I don't want to say stupid, but a little bit like they can't add up to what's being asked of them because they're like, oh, well, I'm not in the advanced class and I'm not making these high scores on a test that judges me based on what I can memorize in my brain for the next 30 minutes while I take this test. Um, I think that a lot of the times kids need more than just to be lectured at. And that 8 to 3 time period is all some kids have to get to get any type of education. And so I think that we kind of take that for granted and we think, oh, well, what we don't teach them, their parents will do. But families aren't always the best case scenario. So I think that there should be a serious adjustment in the state and national policies on education so that teachers can stop focusing on all of these standards so that they're not as stressed out about everything they have to do and they can focus on these unique learning experiences for every kid. And I think that public schools were originally created so that every child had an equal opportunity, and that's kind of fading away. So I think that's definitely what we should be trying to get back to.